Shora Bashimte. I am Calum Traveler, and I'm actually kind of recording this bit a bit later than I recorded bits of the next bit of this video, which, yeah, anyway, so I was asked a while ago, how did I get these textures from, from the Cyan repository? How did I get them for age building? And the answer to that is, a while back, Cyan gave us a whole big zip file, massive zip file, full of unsorted textures, and I downloaded all of them when it first came up. And so I have all those files already. But how do you get your hands on them? Well, that's where the Mole Assets repository comes in handy. It will, it's this page here, and it contains basically all of the, all the stuff that's mirrored in other sites. There are other ways, other sites. GitHub has a specific mirror of everything. The Foundry, OpenURU Foundry, they have their own repository. You can find those under textures. So you can find them here. Yeah. The OpenURU Foundry also has a web browser that lets you find textures, that lets you preview the textures. And the reason I'm specifically talking to you about the foundry.openuru.org assets foundry textures browser is because this will let you find specific textures based on their file names. You will look at the textures, find the texture you want, look up its file name. So here we would say Kadish bug. That's a texture. And then when you come here to the Huru repository, you can go to sources, scroll down to textures, and go to the TGAs. You'll find all of these folders. And these folders contain basically every TGA texture that was in the file dump, just sorted cleverly and handily. So if you go to like dev textures, you can find stuff like start panel, yes text. If you go to shared, you can find things that are shared across multiple ages. So you can go, like, say, you go to, so let's say you find your texture you want. Let's say it's Starfield TGA. How do you download it? Well, go to raw, click it, and here's your file. You just have to save it, save as, etc., and it will download it to your downloads folder. That's about the gist of it. And now let's cut back in time a bit to where I was looking for some specific textures, shall we? So I found a texture here. This is Gira Cracked Mud 01. And you can see I don't have it copied over. Yep, I don't have it transformed into a PNG, so I'm going to drag it over into GIMP, and now we have the texture file in here. And you'll see it's got all this lovely transparency to it. And we're going to re-export it. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to change it to PNG, the file extension. And it'll re-export it. And now we have that mud texture from Gira. Ain't that lovely? And now we're just gonna, we're gonna repeat that with other textures, like say Gira Dirt Path 01. We've got Gira Dirt Path 01. Go in here, bring it over, file, export, and since I'm using the same instance and I didn't completely close down GIMP, it'll save. Remember that I'm trying to export in PNGs, and so I can just re-export to another PNG. As long as I don't double-click and close down the whole program, I can keep doing that as long as I want to. Gira Dirt Path Edge. Ooh, that's a good one we could use. So if I go in here, Dirt Path Edge, boom, file, export, export. And hey, now we've got more textures we can use. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to keep going through and trying to find textures that I need, and we will, you know, ooh, here's a lava texture. More lava. Ooh, lava chunks. Lava, lava. Oh, that is lava-ly, and I'm going to need those lava textures. Oh, yes, I am. I'm also likely going to need these fumarole textures, these other textures, because Gira, you know, it's a lava place. It's a very lava-filled place. And these Gira fossils, too. Ooh. I may use these, too, in places. Because Cyan never officially left these in the game. They went to the trouble to make these textures, but then they never used them. Which is sad, if you ask me. Because textures like these deserve to be seen, don't you think? A grass patch. Ooh, a grass patch edge. Yeah. Some ground dirt. Ooh, some dirt edges. Oh, yeah. These textures are gonna come in so handy. Ah, here's a texture from Calum that's been reused for Gira. That also may come in handy. Now, you'll notice that I'm coming in and grabbing these Gira source textures. Gira is a lot more orange than I kind of want our descent area to be. Because, yeah, it's a bit more orangey. God, I misspoke. Gira is a lot more orange in its rock hue than I want our pod area to be. It is, you'll notice, so it's like, the textures that I'm using for here are Cleft Desert Floor, which are a bit more, which is a bit more pale, yellowish than that. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take these Gira textures and I'm going to try and color match them to this. You know, brighten them up a bit. You know, mess with the hues a bit. At least in a few cases, that's what I'm going to do. Because I'm still looking for specific textures and I haven't found them yet. So, here is the texture that we're currently using for our, you know, our ground. You know, it's the Cleft Desert Floor 02. It's our main color hue thing. We don't need it in GIMP, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it in Paint so I have it ready as easy access. So, let's see, where's open? We're looking for open with, and we're going to hit Paint. This is Microsoft Paint. This is just your basic image editor. Yeah, anyway. That's just there for easy color reference, because we're going to be doing something different here. So, to start with, let's take this Cleft Desert Floor texture. This is, you know, one of the various cleft textures, and it is decidedly not the same color. So, how are we going to do this? Well, there's a couple ways we can do this. I'm going to copy it from Paint, and I'm going to paste it into our GIMP file folder here. So I'm going to right-click the pasted layer, and I'm going to make it to 2 new layer. So now we have a texture layer as a thing. Now, there's a couple ways I could do this. I can just set it to color. Ooh, that looks kind of not quite right. Saturation. Ooh, Value. Not quite liking that. Divide. Whoa, that changes it. Hard light. A bit more orange than I want it to be. But as you can see, once we start mixing and matching, this is how we can start to make some unique textures. So, you know, soft light, overlay, addition. Ooh, that's a bit too bright there. But yeah, when messing around with GIMP, you can see how we start to get some unique sort of... here we go. So, I've hit hue on this, and it is now... So, this is the basic cleft texture, and now that I have our player pasted over it, if I activate it on hue mode, it now kind of makes it tan, a bit more tan. And that is what we're looking for. I'm going to file, export, and I'm going to rename this Pod 12 Left Desert Lore. I'm basically renaming the file name just a smidge, condensing the file name a bit. But I'm adding pod 12 at the start of it because we need it for pod 12. And I'll close without saving, because we don't really need that particular editing file. Anyway, let's see what other textures we got here. We've got a bunch of Gira textures here. These are desert canyon wall textures, which are a bit small for what I want. And not quite what I was looking for. Let's go, here are our Gira textures. So here's our desert mud. Like I was saying in the previous clip. Copy. Gira is a bit too orange. It's a bit too red. So if I do the toggle compare here, you'll see it's a lot more red than the light orange that we're using in this base texture already. Oh, if I set that to hue, and now if I change that, look at that. Now we have our texture in the color we want it to be in, or at least the color I want it to be in. So, file, export, and I'm going to go pod 12. I'm just going to rename it. You keep the name basically the same. Gira Cracked Mud 1. And that is, whoopsie daisy. That was not what I wanted to do at all. Let me go reopen that. Open with paint. There we go. I have that open again. Okay, so Gira, and so I'm going to go back in and I'm going to just drop all these textures in. I'm going to repeat that process, and I'm just going to export them fresh to new layer, set that to hue, and now it's slightly more orange than it was before. So file, export, go pod 12, Gira Dirt Path 01. Yep. And that is just the pattern that we're going to keep repeating on these. Because, irregular texture shape alert. So, what we got here is, well, that works. To new layer. You see, this is about probably the same width, but it's narrower. So if I go like this, and I go hue, boop, 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 yep. You'll notice there's some slight texture issuing there. Like I've got a little bit of green. Because that's where some of the textures are being weird. I'll change that back to hue. There we go. Now all the little green bits are not showing up where I want them to be. That is the hard part of doing this kind of, quick and dirty, recoloring of existing textures. Is, it's taking these textures that already exist and just making sure everything lines up right. So once again, that's going to be to new layer, set that to hue, and hey, now we have a recolored fossil texture. I have no idea if I'm going to even use these fossils, but that's not going to stop me from recoloring them to begin with, because it gives me an option to basically play around with and make new textures. Because it never hurts to have something new, and then not need it. Because as long as you are, going along, doing your own thing, and just doing it for the fun of it, does it matter if you have something that you don't use? I mean, if you look at the texture dump, Cyan has a whole lot of textures in there that they flat out just didn't use in a lot of places. Or they used it temporarily and then, you know, changed their mind on it. This is just basic retexturing, basically. This is just texture generation. That is, you know, it is texture generation, and it's taking what is already existing, and it's, you know, combining it. It's remixing what you have, and Cyan allows it with the texture dump because they included a Creative Commons license on it. So, of course, we're able to, you know, redo this as long as we're including that we're doing it in our redistribution. As long as we carry on the license, you know, it's all good. It's all good. To new layer, set that to hue, file, export to 12. Yeah. So we're just gonna keep doing that. Now, this is the same texture. It looks like it's just like one is slightly above the other. I probably don't need both, so I'm only going to do this one. And whoop, to new layer, hue. That'll do the trick. File, export. Oops, come on. There we go. But yeah, this is just basic retexturing that we're doing here. We're adjusting the color of existing textures. That's not a hard thing to do. You don't even need to copy and paste the texture over it like I'm doing. You could just have a flat color and you could just lay it over there and do something like, let's say we're going to do this hive color here. Yeah, so like if I go and I choose, let's go with purple here. I go new layer, and then I fill that in, and then I go hue. Well, now we've got a purple hive texture. File, export, 12, here a hive rough, purple. Will I use that? I have no idea, but I've done it now, and now I have it as an extra. But you can see it's just doing the same general vibes here. Export 12. Now, like I said, Cyan used a lot of textures in a lot of places, and you know, that is all right. Now we've got some pond textures here. I could technically use these. You know, I could use these. These are like little edging bits. These are good rock textures. Here's a sand texture, sky texture, star texture, more rock textures. We can use all of these. Here's a sun. Though, considering that it's showing me a black outline there. Yeah, this is not going to do. Because when I import that into the game, it's going to show us black square around that. So, let's do something about this, shall we? So, let's create a new layer. We're going to replicate a sun. Yeah, we're going to make a sun here. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to select this color in GIMP. It's a slightly yellowish white, it looks like. Edit, and I'm going to fill that in. Disable that. Yep, there we go. we now have a circle. So there's a couple of ways that I'm going to be able to create a sun like this. Looking at this, it looks like they just used a bunch of gradient blurs on a bunch of flat circles. So that is exactly what we're going to do here. I'm going to select a bit of orange here. Why not? I'm going to make that. I'm going to fill that in. Edit. Fill. And again, you're noticing this is going to look kind of wonky. It's very obviously just kind of, you know, I'm literally just making flat circles here. There's no depth to it. Now, I'm going to duplicate this layer. Why am I duplicating it? Then I can go in, make a slightly yellower version, disable the normal one. I'm going to go and I'm going to fill. Now, if I look there, you don't quite see it, but there's a little bit of yellow blurring around the edges. Not quite as big as I want. Ooh, image window. It's not quite as big as I want here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out a new circle. It's slightly bigger than that. And also, I apologize that this isn't technically Blender for Korman for beginners, because, yeah, this is, there we go. Now we've got that edge look. Because this is technically me doing, my own thing in Blender, in GIMP. This is not, we're not doing anything in Blender right now. So, now we've got all of this. How are we gonna replicate this original look? That is a good question. So GIMP has a couple of tools. And there's the smudge tool, there's the blur sharpen tool, and there's the erase tool. There's the perspective clone tool, but dodge. Yeah, I think we're going to go with the smudge tool on this. I think the smudge tool is what we need. Now, by default, the smudge tool, if I have it on the right layer, if you look by default, the smudge tool just pulls things and it blurs it upwards. And this is how we're going to kind of make a pseudo-gradient kind of effect. I'm just going to go around the edges and I'm just going to feather it out. Are there easier ways to do this? Sure. But I'm not doing this, you know, I'm not showing the super easy techniques right away. What I'm doing is I'm showing you guys, in the spirit of the Blender or beginner stuff, I'm showing you how to, you know, just start doing this from scratch. You'll notice I'm kind of going in a few places and I'm kind of dragging it in the other direction. That's because it will look a lot better if it's not uniformly all just pushing outward in the same direction. That's just how things look sometimes. Sometimes you get really, really long streaks, and sometimes you get little narrow divots. And blur sharpen is our friend here. And there's a reason I made these all into their different layers instead of like doing it all in one layer. Because that way, yeah, that looks pretty good for the moment. Now I can just go a layer up and I can just start doing the same thing. Yeah. See? And now I don't have to worry that if I go in and erase it, that I'm going to be, that if I go in and do it backwards, that it's going to cause, because if I, you know, it's not going to cause like this. If I smudge it inwards, it causes a bit of it to vanish. Like, I don't want to do that, and because if I had it merged into the same layer, I might run into that issue. So if I go like that, yeah, you see that's not quite, doing the same thing here. And that's what we're after. Layers are our friends in Photoshop and other such programs. GIMP, elsewhere, you know. And I'm going to try and generally mimic my view, my upwards corona, because not perfectly, mind you, but just generally kind of give you the same kind of vibe that it's you know, feathering out in the same places. Kind of, yeah. We're just doing this kind of Bob Ross style. We're just doing something that, you know, looks a little fascinating. And again, you might be thinking, this is going to look kind of, you know, sharp in the age. Like, it's, if I move this texture on top and I turn it on, you'll notice, and that looks a little more smoothed out. Like, it's fairly, you know, mine is not quite as round. Theirs is a lot more round in how it's been blurred. And, you know, that is perfectly okay. So this is just our first pass. We're not done with this just yet. We're just, you know, we're just stretching out this bit of yellow band. And now you can always see how good of a difference this yellow is going into the orange compared to the orange going into the red. And what that means is I'm going to need to get another layer of orange in here to make the gradient better. Like I said, there's more to this, but there's definitely easier ways to, like, do this. But like I said, this whole process is about you know, making something that kind of looks believable. So I'm going to insert another layer in here. I'm going to go back to our red, and I'm going to nudge it up a bit in the orange, just a smidge. Now, I could go and I could, you know, I could draw it. I could just do another full circle thing. Or I could come in here with, let's say, this tool. There we go. Now if I bring this through, now that kind of looks, let's just sloppily merge this in. Now I see how that's starting to affect things a bit. Not quite the look we want. So I'm gonna set that to hard light. Ooh. Oh, I like that. I like that. Now if I go in with my smudge. Oh yeah, there we go. Now that's looking more lively, doesn't it? Yeah, that's looking much more lively. Okay, view, zoom, fit image and window. Let's compare our two textures so far. Boop, 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 boop. What if I... Ooh, nope. What if I multiply? Nope. What if I burn? Ooh. Lighten? Oof. Hue. Color. Value. Yeah, that's not quite doing what I want it to do. Just yet. But yeah, that's very round. So, what am I going to do next? Well, I'm going to disable this. New layer from visible. Now we have another layer that is basically all those layers we just did merged together. And here's where our friend blur is going to come into. No. We're going to go back to smudge. And we're going to kind of, you know, we're going to go around this again. We're going to merge, mix it all together a bit more. No, not quite liking that. Yeah, let's up the size of our blur brush. Let's make that 200. Oh, yeah. That's getting nice and blurry. Now if I turn that back on. Yes, that's looking a little more lively. This in, and I turn that on. Ooh. Put that in, and I turn it on. Ooh, yeah, that's looking better. Okay. Now this is kind of looking more like a sun effect. Yeah. Still not quite the hue I want it to have, though. But this is very much, much better than what we had before. I'm gonna leave this new layer on visible, and I'm gonna just turn down the opacity a bit, just to soften that. I'm gonna turn down the opacity a bit here to soften it. Then I'm gonna come in with our smudge tool again. I'm gonna take down the size of the brush to 100 this time. No, I'm gonna take it down to 50 this time, because that's a bit much. Now I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna smooth out our edge here. Yeah. Give it a little bit of a haze. There we go. That's looking spiffy, if I do say so. Now I'm gonna go File, Save As, Pod 12, Sun New, because I do actually want to save this file to work with more in the future in case I decide to keep working on it. I like that. For now, I'm going to export it. Sun New PNG. So let's go down to let's go down here. Pod. And here are all our pod textures. Now here's our sun that we just made. And look how that edge is all kind of hazy. Ain't that something? And of course, white background is going to make it look a little weird. But yeah, we have a sun now. And now we have all these textures. And now that we have all these textures, let's take a step back into Blender and actually put some of these to use. In advance, you'll notice that I've retextured this back wall here. It's not the texture I want to have here, it's just the sand texture for our pond floor. Also, you notice that I have severely finished the raising of the walls, but we'll get to that once we actually get it. So the reason I pre-selected these basically is so that I can come in here and yeah, I have a general idea where my pot is. I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new material. I'm going to call this, let's call this one, let's call this Scratchy Ground. Yeah, Scratchy Ground. That works. Now I'll go in and I'll create a new texture and I'll open it. Go to my textures, PNGs, and I'm looking for pod 12. I'm looking for the cleft desert floor. Yeah, there we go. Now we have our new texture in here. So, edit mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select these faces. And because I selected all these beforehand, I do not have to go in and decide all of these at once. I can just go to my Scratchy Ground and now assign it. And now it's going to look, and now it's going to have that texture cropping in where I've reassigned it. I keep going, Scratchy Ground. Yeah. See how I'm just following my pattern here now, right? Go assign, Scratchy Ground. Now, I am going to have to come in and realign all the UV texturing on this at some point, because it's not the angle I want, but my concern right at this moment is not making it perfect. My concern is just getting all these faces reassigned. I can worry about making it all line up properly after. Although I'm noticing right now that it is a lot more pale pink than I was imagining it would be. I may have to go into my diffuse texture here. I may have to set that to be a little bit orange. And so if I were to say go into solid, well, now see that's got a color difference. Material. I'm gonna leave it a bit more red at the moment. I'm not sure how this is gonna look in game, so we will continue on with that later. It's not our concern right now to make this look pretty. And there I go, accidentally hitting a face I didn't want to hit. But that's okay. I can go in and I can fix this all later. Like I said, the goal of this is not to make it pretty or perfect. It's just to get the texture assigned now. One step at a time. And our first step here is assigning our new texture. Because then we can go in and make our adjustments afterwards. So why am I using this cleft texture for specifically here? My thought logic is, okay, the cleft texture is a very kind of scratchy looking ground texture. And this pod literally just, well, not literally, but it tumbled off of the cliff fairly recently. And it should be, as it should logically be, the ground should be all roughed up where the path is. Now, I can go in and I can make a new texture that is, fairly, well, it could be any number of things, really. Yeah, it looks speeding up, but it's not like it's flowing in the way I want it to. But, it's just a rough pass. It is a rough pass. It is a rough edit. And we will come back and work with it more once we see how it looks. Also, like I keep saying, don't forget to save. Launch the age. Well, let's see how that looks in game. Ooh. That actually looks fairly good. I think I got a good color match there. Yeah, the texturing isn't quite tiling the way I want it to, but that's alright. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Let's back up and let's look at that view. Oh yeah, you see how we're feeling on this, right? That part of the cliff looks like it's just completely been crumpled and scratched all up because everything came tumbling down, and it's not pretty. It is not pretty at all. But it's looking pretty good. Yeah, here we are in here, and yeah, I'm digging this. I'm digging it. The height is what I've been really after in this place, though. You're down here at the water level, and you're looking up at all these cliffs surrounding you. They may yet still go taller, but you really start to get the sense of the scale of it, where the pod fell and how it tumbled down the cliff. You see it all scratched up there. Yeah. And now if we go swimming through our tunnels here, and you look up and you see how it just towers above you. Mind the stretchiness on the wall, because I have still not gone in and retextured that yet. But yeah, you look here and it's just... Just imagine a night sky up there. Just imagine the stars up there gazing down at you. That is a visual. Can you go through here? you're swimming, and you're swimming, and you're swimming. And looky here. I've temporarily textured these pillars because, of course, I have. Now, the thing to note here is these pillars are not textured in the way that I want them to be. These are very much using the same ground texture everything else has been using so far. When I want them to be using, I want them to be using something more like this texture, or this texture. These are actually the same texture, it's just one's turned sideways and such. But yeah, I kind of want some of these, textures here. I want these stalagmite textures on it to make it look like it's, make it look like it's been, formed from dripping water, forming all the stone and such. And I need a bit more of a lava texture in this cave. Yeah. So you'll notice that there are all these paths here that I've kind of created this pathway design here. That these islands, these support pillars, are holding up this roof, and they're holding it up through the water. And it's clear that there's just been some kind of archway buffeting going on. There's been some archways that have been carved out by the flow of the water over time. And they kind of formed little bridges. I'm wondering, what am I going to be doing with all these bridges? Where are they going to? Well, I have not properly continued out the modeling of it just yet. My rough idea is I'm going to pull something, so just like I pulled all the textures out of Gira, I'm also going to pull Fireflies as a mechanic into this age. Now, at the moment, Korman is not quite supporting particles, and Fireflies are particles, and therefore that they are very hard to implement properly. That is a thing that is being worked on, but there are workarounds for that. Serene is getting an update. If you go on to Minkata Alpha or Prime, one of the Minkata shards at the moment, you would be able to find that the Age of Serene now has snowfall and fireflies buzzing around in it. And that was done through a peculiar little trick, and if need be, I can have somebody help me with that trick. Now, it's not quite what I intend to do right this moment, but and maybe if we're lucky, we'll get to see particles implemented, and I will be able to, actively add in the particles myself for the tutorial. But you'll see how things go. You'll see. And we will find out how things work. Look at that. Look at that cliff. You see how that just gets all scratchy? And now if I turn those scratches so that... Now if I use the UV mapping to make those scratches look all downwards in direction, oh, that's going to be beautiful. That's going to be worth all the effort. Well, I've gotten all these faces selected. It's time to project from view. Oh, yes. And let's stretch it out, get some of that stretchy bit going here. Oh. Yep, let me try that again, because I missed a frame. I missed a single plane. Project from view. There we go. Stretch it out. Now, this texture has the stripes kind of going horizontally. I want it going vertically, so I'm going to rotate it. Twist. Ooh, yeah, there we go. Now, if I go back into object mode, and you get all that scratchy bit going down the side of it. Oh, yeah. Go back to edit mode. Let's stretch this out a bit more. Okay. Now, see, that's the danger of rotating it, because now my idea of where up and down are is getting a little screwy. Yeah, there we go. Go back to our object mode. Oh, and now you see how that looks all like it's scratched up and it's all collapsed. And yeah. Oh, yeah. Properties. Let's go and export our age again. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Ah, I missed a frame again. How annoying. I will have to go and change that texture again. But you see now how that blends a whole lot better with that downwards angle. And yeah, I got seamage here, but I can work with seamage. I can work with the seam lines. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Now you really get the sense of directionality from that movement. You see how it just looks all like it's just someone took a big old scoop and just scraped downwards on that. Ain't that a sight? Yeah. Now, another thing you might be noticing is I did not select planes above a certain point. Notice that here, that if I go down here, notice that all my little rock texture down here is still, that's all fairly, well, let's just say that this area down here should not quite be this bright and happy with all those rocks piled above it. And that is part of the reason that I did my setup of the planes like this. Because, see, now I have a general idea of where my cutoff is for the rocks, where my texture line is. And I have an idea of what to do next. If your guess was to create a new layer, fill that layer with some shadow, set that to hard, no, set that to soft left, oh yeah. Let's drive some shadow into there. Yeah. Then I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to rotate it. Image. Layer. Transform. Rotate 90 degrees. Now I set that to multiply. Now if I go back to my dark layer and I pull that back a bit, oh, suddenly I don't even need that extra darkness layer. Look how dark that looks already with that little bit of spotlight there. Oh, yes, that is what I'm looking for. So, File, Export, Pod 12 plus Desert Floor 01, Dark. In all caps, because I need to know it's my dark texture. And I don't even need to save that. Close without saving. So, we're now back into Blender here. And once again, I'm going to go create new texture, new material, and this is under rock shadow. This is just... Now, I know what you're thinking. I could probably go in here with some fancy vertex, vertex shader. I could go in with some paintbrush, and I could go in and paint in shadows manually. I could go in and texture things manually. Sure, I could do that. But this is a video about making textures, not doing shadows. This is a video about doing textures. This is a video about textures. More textures, man. Throw on all the textures we can do. We are texturing this video. So, of course, I'm going to do it with textures. Sorry if I get a little excited there. Before I forget, let's go select this plane. I'm going to set that to scratchy ground. And there, look at that. Because I did my lineup properly earlier, I don't have to redo all of that. Yeah, okay. I just had to change the texture name. Brilliant. Oh, so brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to select all of these faces. probably don't need to actually select all the ones that I'm selecting here. But it's going to help me figure things out. I'm going to escape out of here. Yeah. Like right here. You see, I probably don't actually need these ones selected. So I'll go back to, set that back to ground. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. I'm going to start with these. I'm going to set that to assign those to dark. Now, let's see here. Where are my shadows coming in? Yeah, okay. Let's take a look here. What plane is that on? Ah. So this is the row I want to start on next. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just going in here with my little dark texture. Make sure not to double up on planes you've already selected, because then it gets weird. Just Control Z if you do that. Control Z is your friend. Your friend of undoing mistakes. Because unlike real life, we do get an undo here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to retexture all that, but that's alright. Once I know roughly where everything is, I think I actually have that pretty well covered now. I probably don't actually need to texture in all of this. I could probably just leave it, but I'm being a little completionist. So sue me. Don't actually sue me, please. It's just a turn of phrase. Nope. 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 Okay, I will deal with those two later. Okay. Wipe zap out of that. Pull that up. How is that? Okay, good. It's still beneath the rocks. Okay. Nobody's gonna notice. Nobody's gonna notice. Okay. Okay. This is getting annoying. I really need to shrink down the size of that a bit, don't I? Another problem for another time. UV image editor. You project from view. Select. I'm gonna drag it out. Oop, nope, I dragged that in the wrong direction. Let's drag that out like so. Oh yeah, there we go. Although, I may need to redo that. Let's try that again, because I've got some stretchy textures. View, project from view. There we go, that works so much better. Although that's a bit more repetitive. Let's go back and let's shrink that down a bit. So it's not quite so obviously repeated. And because I'm trying to make it so that we are dealing with our bright spot here, roughly in this corner, I'm going to drag this. I'm going to put it about, here. We've got a bright spot in our texture, so why not take advantage of it? And that way, when I put in some lighting in here, let's put in some lighting in here, it's going to look pretty swanky. And then just because I'm going to come in through here, view, project from view, and I'm just going to drag that out and try and get that to line up a bit. There. That removed a bit of the seam line there. Yeah. And then when I come in here with more rocks and cover that up, then nobody's even going to notice there are seam lines there. Ah. Properties. I'm going to go back in. Save. I'm going to go export it. And we're going to go back in the edge and we're going to take a look and see how that retexture looks. Now, it's still a bit bright in here, but it feels a whole lot more shadowy, doesn't it? Oh, I think it feels more shadowy. And in fact, I can probably come in here and I can retexture these rocks that are down here, make them a bit more color matching, as it were. That is a seamless little bit. That is, you know, I can go in and now I can muck with the coloring a bit. I can darken it a bit. Maybe. I'm going to leave it as is for the moment because, you know. But yeah, this is just a simple way of doing shading. You know, if you don't like the color of the texture of your world, you can literally just recolor the texture and get a slightly different look for it. Well, I think I know what I'm going to do next video. And that is make a floor in here. And make proper ramps. And do all sorts of things. But for now, I'm going to be content with the fact that I made the floor. That I made the floor solid. So I can't clip through it. Oof. Yep. Okay. So here is a simple trick to retexturing objects very quickly. So I'm just going to select this rock here. I'm going to go to Material, and you'll see I've got it set to ground. That's what its default set to. So I'm going to go hit this little bit here where it's listing ground. I'm going to hit Browse Material to be linked. That's going to link a bunch of the textures. Well, if I want to be the scratchy cleft ground, then it can be the scratchy cleft ground. If I want to be Underdark Rock Shadow, it'll be Underdark Rock Shadow. And I don't have to go in and do the whole project from view and, you know, I don't have to do object edit mode. You know, select all frames. You know, reset and have it. You know, I don't have to do that on all of these. It automatically is going to just, so if I go into this and I change the texture, it's going to keep all my UV formatting the same. It's just going to change the texture of the rock. I change it to the Underdark Rock Shadow. Now, the only issue with doing it in mass like this is that now you'll see there's where one of my seam lines is. And that is going to be noticeable if I don't do something about it. Or is it? Yeah, it might be noticeable. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. Yeah, you see how I'm getting my rocks all kind of visibly, you know, shadowed now? Yeah, I gotta undo that last rock texture change that I just did. Yeah. I'm going to go to this rock, edit mode, and I'm just going to select a couple faces here. I'm going to drag it down the Z-axis. Grab that, drag it a bit down more. Stretch that out a bit. Oh, yeah. And now that rock feels like it's a little more pinned in there. Now, obviously, there's a solution to having it be a multi-sided rock. Like, if I go in and view this rock here, like, obviously, a very quick and simple solution to make sure that all my rock texture faces are, you know, going to be facing the right color in the right direction. So if I go in, if I add another texture, I select the Underdark Rock Shadow, and I'm going to hit Assign. Hit the Assign button. And now, yeah, if I go and reset, so I'm going to go project from view from below. Oh yeah, you see how that rock is now got the dark bit under it? Now if I go down under here, you'll see it's dark underneath, but bright on top. And that is exactly what we're going to keep doing. Come under here, Object, Edit Mode. I'm just going to select the faces that are going to be visible from below. Make sure I haven't selected anything that's going to be visible from the top. You know, I can probably live with those particular faces being dark. Because they're in such a dark little corner there, they can be dark. There we go. Object mode. Yeah, you know, that could work. That could work. But, yeah, I'm not quite digging it exactly. Let's go into edit mode. Yeah, let's get my knife here. And let me just drag it across here. I'm going to select these planes again. Go back to ground. Assign. Zip out of that. Now, the bit that's really in the shadow there is going to be in the shadow. And it's darker texture. So that's going to work nicely. So I zip under here and I take a look at my rocks. Yeah. This space is going to feel very dark and cramped now. And I can do the same trick here on all of these rocks. I'm just going to go in. I'm just going to select the underground rock shadow. Edit mode. I'm just going to select these faces that are I'm going to select these faces that are just visible. You know, as you do. Assign. Is there anything poking out above that's looking weird? Nope. So that leaves us this big rock here. Now, what? Yes, it is very much going to be, this is very much going to be one of those rocks that we're going to need to select our faces of. And I'm just kind of going at it a little willy-nilly. Even though I don't know for sure what faces are going to need it just yet. I know for sure that these faces back here definitely going to need our texturing, retexturing. Go in. And I'm going to set the rock shadow, assign it. Check from view. I'm going to go back to this rock here, object edit mode. I'm going to grab this face and then just drag that down over the texture that I didn't catch. Object edit mode, and I'm just going to actually, no. Which rock am I holding on to currently? I'm holding on to this rock. I'm going to duplicate that rock now. I'm going to bring it down here. Make sure I'm not clipping through there. Okay. Scale it to the Y a bit. Clipping through. Nope, I'm good. Okay. Right, that's good for covering that end. oopsie. I did an oopsie there, too. Why is that one... Oh... I did a duplicate linked at some point. Bad cow. I did a duplicate linked. Because of course I did. Yep. I did a duplicate linked and that messed things up. Fortunately, it's not too big of a mistake. And this is really just artistry in motion. And do I want to retexture those rocks entirely? No, I don't, actually. And so I'm just gonna duplicate this rock. And I'm gonna carefully bring it in. Scale it up. And let's see, here's that gonna go. Yeah, let's just get it in like that. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna change my texture to the under rock shadow. And then I'm gonna go object edit mode. I'm gonna select these faces, drag them back. That face, drag it back. Oh, am I missing a face? I'm just gonna move this over a smidge. Actually, let me take a look at the collision here. Object edit mode, let's see here. I want to just grab a vertex point here and just move that out of sight. There we go. Yeah, that should do the trick. And we'll do one last save, one last export, and we'll make sure that we didn't screw anything up. And then I think I'm going to call it a video. Aha! Did screw up something there. I'm going to have to mess with that plane a bit. Yep, I'm going to need a new floor. Yeah. I accidentally deleted one of my rocks that was in here when I deleted that, didn't I? Because it was deleted link. Yeah. I need to go back in and make a new rock that I deleted stupidly because I'm a dummy. And who does deleting? Who deletes things sometimes without thinking? But, you know, it's not too bad. I can recover from this. And once I get that book stand in there and I put the book in there, yeah. This will be a nice little book nook for a Nexus book, I think. Yeah, it'll be a good place for the Nexus book. It's all going to be all cloistered away, secreted away. Yeah. And then I just have to make sure everything is casting shadows correctly. Ah, that is good. Not bad for a couple hours work, huh? Very quickly retexturing a thing. Retexturing a few things, really. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Shora Bashemte. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next video.